Hear me? No, they can't. There we go. Hello and welcome everybody to the Electroverse webinar, where we're going to chat to Joe here, who actually works for Electroverse, and run you through a little bit more about how Electroverse works, a little bit about how billing works as well, and some other stuff. And we thought that we'd change it up a little bit today, in that we will not run any slides or anything like that. We're going to go straight in with some questions, or at least have a wee think about some questions and then go from there. And then if there are any questions that you guys have, please pop them in the chat panel. We can see today for the first time, if you're used to watching this, you'll see I'm looking up to the left, quite to the right a little bit. That's because we actually can see your questions coming up in here. So we've got one from Fear No One. Hopefully that's not your real name, but if it is, don't worry, where we're going to ask some questions to get some stuff. So if you jump in there and pop in what you need to, we can absolutely see what's going on there. We should be able to answer them live with Joe. We've also had some people ask us some questions more recently, both through the newsletter. So if you're responding to that, amazing, that's fantastic. Or you may have responded to sort of the What If webinar series that we've done in the past as well. So first up, Joe, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hey, everyone.
What you do?
It's nice to be here. I've been super excited to kind of get down and get some questions answered. I work for Electroverse. I'm part of the Ops team, and that mainly involves customer engagement. But I also pick up a little bit of the tariff stuff as well. So yeah, super excited to just like get some questions answered.
And what do you normally? So if we're looking at Electroverse and we're looking at the ops side of things, the operations side of things, what are the questions that you're normally sort of answering on a day-to-day basis? Because obviously we're talking to Octopus EV drivers. So I don't know if you want to give, it's not just OEV driver or Octopus electric vehicle drivers that can charge on Electroverse, right? It's anybody, right?
Anyone, as long as you have an EV, hybrid or completely electronic, anyone can use Octopus Electroverse. And in terms of some of the questions that we get asked the most, that is actually a big one. Can I use Electroverse? The answer is yes, as long as you have an electric vehicle, obviously. And in terms of some other stuff, just some kind of like general knowledge kind of stuff, advice, and we get asked about pricing a lot, because that's a really important part, because we guarantee the rates that you see in the app are the rates that you will see on your bill. But yeah, we get loads of different types of questions, and I'm happy to answer any of them.
Amazing.
To the best of my knowledge.
What I'll do is we've just run through and found some of the spreadsheets with some of the questions here. We're very conscious that the camera's in front of us and not to the side of us, but we're going to run through and double check what's going on here. Why are we not working? So cool. We're now live and alongside. So I think there's some stuff here that we'll cover off. So there was some interesting stuff there you said around making sure the pricing that you see in the app is the pricing that you get. There's some stuff around plunge pricing as well. So for those of you that don't know, sometimes with Octopus Energy, you'll see some prices go down at certain times, and you see the same with Electroverse, but they're at different times. So we want to make that clear and work that out.
I actually did a little bit of learning about this today. So it's the difference between domesticated energy and business supplied energy.
Amazing.
So with Octopus, obviously, we are energy suppliers. So when it comes to domesticated billing, it's a lot easier to do. But since we don't have ownership of the operators on our network, but we're very good friends with them, it's kind of difficult for us to kind of sync those times up. So yeah, that's just a little thing that we wanted to talk about as well.
Amazing. Cool. Yeah. So I think what we're going to cover off today, we're just waiting for a couple of people to join, but we're all good now. We've got some people watching, so that's fine. So I think we'll cover off what the Electroverse is first up. We'll do, and I suppose lots of people should know it, but we'll then cover off some other stuff. We'll answer some questions, and then we'll move into a live demo. So we'll show you how to plan a route on the Electroverse and go from there. So first up, Joe, what is the Electroverse in a nutshell?
It is making public charging easy. That's our main goal, as I'm sure you're aware. But when you're on an EV journey and you want to do a public charge, it can be quite tricky. You have to sign up to a load of different apps, get a load of different cards. So what we've done and what our goal is to try and condense that into one app, one card, one experience, make it super simple. And yeah, that's our goal, that's our mission, and we're getting on pretty well.
Cool. Cool. Then we'll roll into some other questions then. So obviously there's some stuff around tapping in with your card. So how do you do that? You sign up on the Electroverse website?
So what you need to do is you need to download the app, create an account, add a payment method. So we do credit and debit cards, Apple and Google Pay, and PayPal recently, big win. And then from there, just add an electric card to your account. You can head into your profile, scroll down to My Electric Card, pop in your your physical address. My online brain. And then we'll get the card delivered to you as soon as we can.
Amazing. And if you're an Octopus electric vehicle customer, some of the time we will provide you with that card in the back of your car. So if you've got a white envelope that was in the back of your car with your driver pack and you're a little bit confused about what that was, in there should be an Electroverse card, which you can then sign back up to the Electroverse and use that card rather than waiting for one to be posted out.
Exactly.
Next stage, I suppose, and this comes from, I used to work at Tesla, and we had this amazing system in the Tesla car where you tell the car where you want to go, and it works out where everything is, works out what car you've got, how much energy you've got, and how to get there. Electroverse does the same thing, right? Which is what we'll showcase a little bit later.
Yeah, in a way it does, yeah. And that's our route planner function, of course, yeah. It's very clever, it kind of figures out how to kind of optimize your battery's health, because that's a big thing with EV charging. You don't want to be charging too regularly. You don't want to be charging to too high a percent or too low a percent. That 20 to 80% sweet spot is pretty much what you want. So we'll take that into account if you add your EV onto the app. And then, yeah, we'll figure out your route.
And I think that's really important to point out that a lot of what Electroverse does, there's some other people out in the industry that also do it. And I can say that as an Octopus electric vehicles employee, but nobody else does everything that Electroverse does for free. And I think that's really important to point out, right? Is that you can go and pay for all this functionality, but go and check out Electroverse first because it should be free. And therefore, if it's working for you, fantastic. If it's not working for you, please let me know, drop me an email. I normally pop it in at the end of the channel, or get in touch with Electroverse directly and they can help you as well.
And you can reach out to us in the app, or we have an email, hello@electroverse.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we can, because we want you guys to get charging on this app because we think it's pretty cool.
Amazing. And then finally, some forward-thinking stuff. There's some stuff around sort of plug-in charge that you've done with a couple of different cars, which is really cool, very like the Tesla system. You just rock up, plug your car in, and then it does the rest. You can also start the charge through your phone on some situations as well, which is really cool. But the card is the get out of jail free card, right? You're always going to be able to charge with your card, which is super important as well. So what we'll do is we'll jump into some of the questions then. That's sort of a flavour of the questions that we had maybe prior. For no one, Jonathan's also got in touch, Kelly and Stephen as well, and Mr. Holmes or Mrs. Holmes as well have all got in touch. Do you want to run through those nice and quickly? Maybe if you want to look at the camera, I can read them out and you can go from there.
Yeah, sounds good.
So we used Electroverse for the first time in Southampton, and they were shocked how much it cost and how long it took. It was quite expensive to fully charge their Kia Niro EV. It took 2 hours, and I was on a 60 kilowatt at Osprey. First up, I've been a decade in the EV industry. I think sometimes we can get really confused about charging speeds. And I think it's really important that if you're looking at going long distance, to really optimize those charging speeds for you. So when your car is nice and low, that's when you're going to get the fastest charging speed. And as the battery starts to fill up, that's when the battery's going to slow down. Last year, or the charging speed's going to slow down. Last year, I took my car, my BMW, which you'll see in my Electroverse app in a little while. We took that to the south of Italy. We took it to Sicily, only using the Electroverse to plan the route. But actually, I started charging even more often than Electroverse suggested, because I knew that stopping for 10 minutes and charging for 70 or 100 miles was quicker than driving further down the road and then waiting an extra while to charge up, charging maybe for 200 miles or to fully charge, or those kinds of things. I struggle a little bit when I pull up at a charger and I see somebody that's new to an EV, plugging in and charging their car at a rapid charger all the way to 100%. Not because I'm angry with them, but because actually I wish somebody had told them that charging up to 100%, once you're in that 90 to 100% window, it's about the same as charging at home. So you're spending an awful lot more money for not any gain. So what we'd really love you to do is charge like 50, 60% at that real high pace. And that's when your money goes further, because the money that you're spending goes on the speed of charging, right?
Yeah.
What Joe and I were talking a little bit earlier, for the person that did charge, fear no one, if you're online, fantastic, who did charge, Joe can actually have a look into it for you as well. Look at the charging session, see how it went down, and work it out from there, right?
Absolutely,
and work out what happened. And maybe there wasn't anything wrong with this one, but certainly we can maybe show you some best practice moving forward. Hence the reason we do these sessions, because we know that moving to an electric vehicle can seem daunting, but once you get into the work it all out, you're actually really good.
I'd also like to give a quick shout out to our marketing team at Electroverse, because if you go on our website and you go into the community tab, we've got some really super useful blogs, and one of them actually covers the charging curve, which is what you've just mentioned that. So I definitely recommend checking that out, because it's super well detailed, well written, and yeah.
Perfect. Got a couple of others. So Jonathan's asking 2 questions. First up, any plans to bring back partnership with Chargy, and then also some stuff around credits at the Tesla superchargers.
For sure. Yeah.
Sound like complicated questions? Do you want to wade in?
No. I know the answer to both of these. The Chargy thing was honestly quite upsetting to us. We had a really good relationship with Chargy, but their CEO made the decision to withdraw from all electric mobility service providers, EMSPs, like Electroverse. They withdrew from all of them except for ZapMaps. But we would absolutely love to have them back on board. We've got our team kind of chasing them up, seeing if we can bring them back. But there's unfortunately, not much we can do.
Absolutely.
But we'd love to have them back. We would really love to have them back. Yeah.
I think there's something here in that I have a small claim to fame that I may or may not have been the first person ever to charge on the Electroverse before, and it was with a card that looked like this. And I think what was really interesting then was that when I charged there, it was one charge point operator that I plugged in on, and then a second one arrived, and then a third one arrived, and that was over a 6 to 8, maybe a 12-month period. And what you don't see is we're actually in the London office, which is why I'm not wearing my Octopus jumper as you normally see, so I can get into Weybridge, which is our other EV office. Right behind me is where Electroverse used to sit. They're moving about the office. We're all moving this week. But you go over and speak to Garen, you go over and speak to Mark, you go over and speak to Leona, you speak to anybody, you speak to Abby, who are all members of Electroverse, you speak to Matt, and they're all excited about the next person to bring on. And I think that's something to bear in mind, right? We will get asked about certain people joining, when will they join? We would love to have as many people as possible.
That's our main goal. Right? We want everyone.
So you could also help us by asking those people if they would consider it as well, right?
The feedback we always give to the community is raising on social media as well, because that kind of shows that the charging point operators, have a business case. Both of our communities have a need, so we can work together and bring that need to both of our communities. So give us a hand.
Amazing. What about the Tesla stuff, right? Because I also understood, I don't know if it's changed, but I know a few years ago, in the middle of COVID, Tesla started buying electricity from us. But obviously that doesn't necessarily mean that you're directly onto the supercharger. And then also the thing with Tesla that gets a little bit complicated is, Joe, this might be completely not in your world. So if I do say something,
I'm quite new to the EV community, so this is a learning experience for you guys, for me, this is great.
So V4 supercharging, you can charge on a bank card. So you would theoretically, I'm not saying you can right now, but you would theoretically be able to charge on your Electroverse card, right? If you could scan it, right? And we tied that up with Tesla. With V3 supercharging, which is the one that's predominantly the one that you see, there's no ability to scan that card on there. And I think that's where it might get a bit complicated for us being able to move credits onto Tesla, in that we wouldn't want to allow you to charge at some superchargers and not at others, and make it a bit complicated in that respect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. hopefully that answers that. And I think also we cover Mr. Holmes's or Mrs. Holmes's question as well. There's another question here, or two that are fairly linked. Actually, no, it's fine. Kelly's and Stephen's are different. So Kelly asks, are there differences when using Electroverse card app in France? And that was something we wanted to cover, specifically around credits, and then also maybe some future tech, yeah?
Well, I don't have a problem with it. The team is aware of the kind of frustration. First things first, if you guys don't know, using the electric card abroad, you can absolutely do that. We highly recommend it, especially for those long EV trips. But unfortunately, if there's any credit that exists on your account in GBP, you won't be able to use that credit abroad. The team's aware of it, and we're, looking into things. So I don't want to promise anything or give any deadlines, but we're aware of this issue. We hear you, we hear your frustrations, and
yeah, that's cool. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Is that there are probably a little bit like Monzo, they're like pockets of money that sit places. And when somebody in France pulls, we don't know whether the person in France who's tapping in is tapping in initially and they're French and they have an Octopus account in France, or whether they've got an Octopus account in the UK. And then it gets complicated as to whether we pay Ionity or Fastnet or whomever, right? So I get that that's super complicated. But if you've got an Octopus Energy account and you link your Electroverse to your Octopus Energy account, it becomes super easy because at the end of the month, it's one direct debit, right? That comes out of my energy bill rather than me like having to work out. I do this thing to try and make sure I'm not spending money needlessly, where I move money into different pots and cards to spend, whereas my direct debit just comes out. So what I do is I just tap in on my Electroverse card and it bills back to that at the end of the month, and I can break that down as business mileage and I can break it down as home mileage or like personal mileage as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Stephen, hopefully, Kelly, that helps answer that. But actually, in terms of tapping in, it shouldn't be any different at all. All of the chargers now run CCS, which is a European standard. You turn up, you plug in, you tap your card, and away you go. Cool. Stephen asks, I'm about to use the Electroverse this summer on a UK-based holiday. What are the requirements before using a public charging? Is good mobile connectivity required to start charging?
Yeah, for sure.
Can I say yes and no, and then you can explain a little bit more?
Yes and no. So the great thing about the electric card is that you do not need mobile data to charge, which is a lifesaver. However, you do need a stable network for the charging point itself.
But that should be plumbed in, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, these charging companies have access to the internet. That's how we know that they exist. When we run through the live demo, we can show you a charger that we know isn't reporting that it's it's telling us that it's not communicating. So therefore, we know there's maybe not the best thing for it, right? But if you are charging with your card, you don't need an internet connection.
Absolutely not.
But if you're charging with your phone, you will.
Yeah, you absolutely will in that case.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. I can't on here, but if people are a little bit concerned, on my LinkedIn, there's a video of me charging my car at the top of a mountain in Sicily using the Electroverse. And I definitely didn't have mobile signal there when I was using the card, so we're all good. Cool.
Very impressive.
Mark then asks, just to confirm the long journey recharge strategy, we should plan to recharge at around 20% and then top up to 60 or to 80 for a faster charge. Mark, I'm going to go against what Joe says here, right? Because most of the people that have joined and are watching this have a lease car from us at Octopus. And we have some amazing benefits of servicing and maintenance, looking after your battery and all that jazz. So we would absolutely recommend up to around 60 or 80%, or just watch until it starts dropping, right? That's the main thing to watch out for, is you'll see that my car will sit at 205 for a short period of time, then it'll drop to like 180, then it'll drop to 160. And once it starts dropping like to 110, 100, then I'm starting to know, do you know what? I want to start moving on because if I use this electricity, I'll gain that fast curve again. Each car is slightly different. And if we want to get super technical, if you've got an 800 volt charge, an 800 volt architecture car, so that's a lot of the Hyundai group. So Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, Porsche, Audi e-tron GT, the new Audi Q6, and a Rimac Nevera, but nobody on this call will have a Rimac Nevera. But those cars have something called 800 volt architecture, which allows them to charge much more aggressively, much higher up their system. It's a very clever system. It just manages heat a bit better. You don't need to go into the nitty gritty of it. I would argue when you're on a road trip, don't worry about that bottom 20%. If you have the opportunity to charge between 20 and 80, that's great. But if you're driving London to Glasgow or Belfast, you can't drive over the Irish Sea. Maybe you're driving Bristol to Norwich. I wouldn't worry so much about that 20%. I would actually go for the fastest charge based on what Electroverse is telling you, rather than trying to work that out yourself. And if you really want to play the game, you try to roll into the charger with as little charge as possible, but that's only once you're comfortable like I am. Cool, amazing. Yeah, sure. Mark has a brilliant question, and then we'll roll into some live demo, right? So Mark asks, why would you use your Electroverse card to tap and pay at public charger versus just using a debit card? I'll give a couple of answers, and then do you want to answer as the actual Electroverse? For me, I think there's a couple of bits. First up, you sometimes can access that plunge pricing, which you can explain a little bit more on.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you'll find that it's easier to bill back for your business when that's the case. And also you'll find that there are some older chargers out there that might not take. All legally rapid chargers now have to, but there may be some older, like slower public at your gym, for example, you might find that don't do that. The big thing for me is the collation and all of that money coming out in one chunk and then being able to break down what each of those are. And then also if you're on, and this will apply to a lot of the people watching because they are probably Octopus electric vehicle customers who are also on Intelligent Octopus Go, you also get a slight discount on
5 to 8%.
You get 5 to 8%, depending on the charge point you're using.
Or Intelligent
Yeah. But you get a little bit of discount on there as well, so it should save you a little bit of money. But if you can access the plunge pricing, it's incredible, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're starting to roll those out more often as well. The great thing about Octopus Electroverse is so we've released plunge pricing, got a whole team on it. Whenever there's an excess of energy in the grid, we will give it back to you at as low a rate as we can. We really care about pricing at Electroverse as well. We want to make sure that you're paying the absolute best rate for the energy that's out there. You'll find that in some cases, you might get a lower percent, or a little discount, like with Osprey. You can get a little discount between 7 and 11. With Ionity, it's 5% for anyone, anytime. And and we've also released a business model as well for our UK customers. So if you own a business, if you're part of a business, please check that out. That'd be great.
Amazing. Yeah. Cool. John asks, can non-Tesla, I'll answer this very quickly. Can non-Tesla cars use Tesla chargers? Yes, there's about 18 chargers around the UK you can use. It's all in beta. You have to download the Tesla app and then go from there. Your Q4 e-tron should charge absolutely fine. At those 18, the other lot, it can't. You'll also start to see that other companies will be rolling out supercharging soon or other companies will be using superchargers fairly soon as well, which is quite interesting.
Nice.
Cool. So let's start the live demo part of this. So I'm going to load up Electroverse on here on my computer while I lean forward, which is all good. I'm going to close this. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to log in here before we get going so that you can see the cars that I have on my app as well, so that we can go from there, get that email address right, and we'll hit continue now, log in with password, Now, the reason I'm doing this live is so that you can see this is what you would have access to as well. I didn't do it live, I didn't showcase it so that you didn't see my password, but hopefully all of you folks should be able to see what I'm presenting now. So I'm just going to log in here and turn that on there. Hopefully, if you can't see that or if there are any issues, please let me know, but I'm now in and working there. We'll see it up on our screen in about 30 seconds. So there's a little bit of a key here, Joe, right? So there are a whole load of green chargers, green rings, there's some white rings, and there's some orange rings. Do you want to talk through what those are first?
Absolutely, yeah. So you're going to see a lot of green chargers, and they mean they are available and ready to use. You can pull up and plug in. Orange means it's occupied. So if you see a little orange circle around it, you might want to wait a little bit before heading that way. And then white, I believe, is out of order. So
well, it means that we're not communicating with it, right? That we can't hear what it's saying. So it might be that it's not working, or it might be that it's not got an internet connection. So that's what we were meaning when Stephen asked about mobile connectivity, right? Whether or not the charger's communicating, right?
For sure, yeah.
If I click this button here, hopefully people can see my mouse, maybe they can't. If I click this button here, that should load up all the chargers everywhere, right? And let's go, perfect. You can see that they're popping up a little bit more here. So you'll notice that some of these have lightning bolts through them and some of them have dots. Can you explain the difference between those?
Well, yeah, it's really simple. If it's got a lightning bolt in it, it means you can charge through Electroverse. And if it doesn't have a lightning bolt through it, that means they're not partnered with us yet. But we would, again, love to be partnered with them.
But it also means that you can see where the charger are if you are in a sticky situation and need to charge.
So if you're just looking for a charging point to charge directly, you can absolutely use the app to do that. You know, you don't have to use Electroverse to charge at Electroverse charges. You can plan your route accordingly around any type of charge. You've got a favorite charger, go ahead, yeah.
Amazing. So this little button here is a filter system, right? So we can go in there and we can choose what kind of chargers we're charging at. Absolutely. You see there it's linked up for my car already, which is my BMW. That will charge on CCS and Type 2. Yep. Other stuff is not really going to affect our customers anymore because we don't really have CHAdeMO cars coming out that are available to order through Octopus electric vehicles, and Type 1's an older charger as well. But it's still, I think that's really important to point out that, again, Electroverse is about making sure that everybody can use it rather than it's just built for Octopus electric vehicle customers. Absolutely. So that's why it might have some features that you're like, what does this mean? It's just because you don't use it. Down here, you'll see that you can choose whether or not it's got access to plug-in charge. So if you've got the right car, the Electroverse app, using your card or contactless. And then also, I love this feature where you can see how many chargers there are there so that you know whether or not it might be busy, but it also might have lots of chargers.
Yeah.
And then you can also choose your favorite charging companies as well. So if you do have plunge pricing with one, you can click on it. You can see all those. If I click on Ionity now, it'll just show you the Ionity ones. Please don't think that Ionity don't have a lot of chargers. They've put a lot of investment in to have a lot of really high-powered chargers. Them, Fastned, have some of the fastest chargers in the UK. So please don't think that they are scrimping. They are some of the most expensive and fastest chargers on the market. So we'll close that down again now. So you'll see here I've got my car logo and my little, what does this do? I don't know what that does.
That's feedback.
Fantastic. So click there, you should be able to get some feedback on some stuff. Into the car here. So this is my car here, which is cool. Some stuff around here. So manage my EVs, which is brilliant. So while this is in here, you'll see this tab here. I can click on that and it will load up my route planner. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to keep it nice and simple to begin with and go, we're in the London office. So we're W1N, I believe, 1NN. W1D, thank you. 1NN, so that's the office here. And let's drive to my flat in Scotland. 9LG. Perfect. And let's say that I want to stop and collect a friend in, where should we go? I forget how to spell this. Let's go Newcastle. Perfect. Amazing. And I'll start the charge. Let's say I charged in the car park at 90 and I want to use only Electroverse chargers, and I hit, there we go, and I hit calculate route. It's now going to do,
try replacing Newcastle University London with another postcode. There's a bit of a
let's try my mum's house then in Glasgow. Perfect. Why is that? There we go. Take that way there and calculate route. So what I have found is one of the only things that does get a little bit confused about sometimes is multiple ferry journeys. It doesn't like doing Skye from the Isle of Skye. Skye's a bad example, from like Arran to the mainland Europe. And it also doesn't like doing the UK to Sicily. It gets a little bit confused there. But once you're across into Europe, it's fine doing one ferry jump. So you see now that it's built the route. You'll see you've got a couple of options. You've got the fastest route. You've got that was the fastest route. What's this one? And this one, the details of this one here are, I imagine there's lower charging time and maybe shorter distance. So there's some options that you have to play with. But there's a whole load you can play with in here. I love it because you can calculate different routes. You can see what's going on. When I drove to Sicily, we did some stuff where once we were across the border, we just built the route that we wanted to go. The thing to remember here is maybe if you are planning a big European driving trip, that to not do the thing of going London, let's do my home address, WD48LD, cool, and let's take away this and go all the way to, let's go Naples, because my mum wants to go back. Why are we not getting Naples in Italy? There we go, Naples, Italy. Perfect. And hit calculate route. What you'll find is that this journey may take a couple of days to do, or a day and a half to do. So the thing always to remember is find a hotel that has a charger. And then when you leave the hotel the next day, you'll have 100%, meaning you would never actually do it with quite as many charges as this. You'd probably do it a little bit with less charges than this. It takes a couple of seconds to load up. It will get there. It will do it. I have faith. There we go. Fantastic. So that's also got complicated and added Glasgow in there. So let's clear that route completely. Let's check. There's nothing else going on there. There's no waypoints. Calculate route. Let's go. Let's see. Might be that I've got something cached, which is a bit silly. But this is why we do live demos, right? Is to show you how the tech works rather than having something that's preordained and pre-organized to see what's going on. It might take us back to Glasgow. We might have to refresh and go from there. But also that means if it does happen to you, just hit the refresh, clear your cache, and you should be good to go. I can see the recording up here, which is going back up to Glasgow, but we should be able to see this in a second, just as it loads up. Yeah, it's still taking us all the way up to Scotland and back for some reason. So so we can see here, it's taking us up to Glasgow. Still thinks that's there. So what we'll do is we'll just refresh this page and hopefully that gets rid of that. If not,
to the team tomorrow, so
yeah, perfect. And let's go back in, WD, set destination, Naples. Hopefully it works this time. That looks better with one pink arrow. But as I said, the more that you use this, the more you'll get up to speed with how it works. You'll get fairly used to the problems that it has. Not that it has many, but like this, you can work around it nice and quickly, and you're all good to go.
You know, we're trying our best to make it as good as possible, but every now and then there will be a little something that kind of slips up. But
this time,
always find,
perfect.
Yeah, look at that. And we always find refreshing the cache always works. It always works.
And as I said, on this journey in particular, when I did it, I stopped in Thun, which is here. There's a couple of really famous roads that sit around here. The Furka Pass and the Gotthard are some of the most beautiful roads in the world. And actually, if you're going to do that journey, don't go under the tunnels through the Swiss Alps, drive over the Alps. Your car will get a little bit concerned with how steep it is in terms of, I think, range is disappearing. Then down the hill, you'll gain it all back again. But I stayed overnight in Thun and then filled the car up on a charger there, meaning that actually I didn't have to charge at Lucerne or at Milan. I could get all the way to Modena without having to charge. So there is clever ways of doing stuff, right? And that once you're at the location that you want, this is what we did. We turned up at the hotel. There was a car park at the hotel, but it didn't have a charger. So we just jumped straight onto the Electroverse app. It was like, where there's a charger nearby, found it, rocked up, tapped the card. Next morning, came back to the car. We're all good to go. So it really can work quite incredibly. With that, hopefully we've run through enough to whet your appetite on trying the Electroverse, getting in and checking it out. You now know that Joe exists, and Joe has a team that exists as well. So you can jump into the app, leave us some feedback. I'll pop my email address into this chat panel right now, which might be a wee bit confusing because I think it'll arrive before I say that it will arrive. But if you folks have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop me a wee email. If you've got any issues, I can connect you again to Joe. We can have a quick chat, see what's going on. But this is about helping to make this journey to moving to an electric vehicle as seamless as possible. And there are stepping stones to that. We started with our salary sacrifice offering, which a lot of you guys will be on, with the home charger included, or Electroverse credits included as well. And we understand there's more that we can do as well. So please watch this space. There's stuff coming all the time. If you've got any ideas, or if you want to help us with the community as well and see what else you can do, let us know, and we can go from there. And yeah, get out there, enjoy the Electroverse app. If you did come through here through the newsletter or through our link, you will see over the next coming week, we will email you with some of the top EV road trips you can do in the UK using the Electroverse app, where we kind of have sort of suggested some charging spots, but that's purely because we think they're pretty, or there might be good coffee. I built the Scottish one. Hopefully nobody can tell why. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you ever so much, everybody.
Thank you, guys.